Hello. um, my name is Joshua Pether, and I'm the new CEO of Art Spaces Victoria. And I'd like to start by welcoming Wurundjeri man Daniel to the stage to give us a welcome to country. Thank you, Daniel.
Thanks, Josh. Poor Josh has been practicing for like half an hour, so he didn't say Wiradjuri instead of Wurundjeri. But that's okay, it happens all the time. I've got 10 minutes, but how do I share our story, my ancestors' story with you all in just 10 minutes? So I promise I'll be done by sunrise. Bunjil is our creator. Bunjil created everything we know, from the stars in the sky to the roots of the trees in the ground. Bunjil taught us how to listen, how to care. But more importantly, he told us that this thing called art didn't exist, right? Art, to me, art is a modern concept. But I see all of you as knowledge holders, not as artists. Because Bunjil taught us how to listen, how to care. But he passed that story down through song, through dance, through leaving marks on objects. And that's how we expressed our knowledge and shared it with future generations. But it's 2024. How do some of those things that we talk about reflect on what we do now? And we've got a season called Porneet. And when the wattle blooms, we pause and we check in on our old people. And 2 years ago, when the wattle bloomed, we know we lost Uncle Jack and Uncle Archie. Last year I had to visit my own mum. But there's a flip side. We see yam daisies coming to flower, tadpoles in ponds, fresh new beginnings everywhere we look. Another was when we could take food. And, well, I found a supermarket. But we knew that when the emu stood up in the horizon, that we could take the emu egg. And we knew that as we traversed around the sun, the emu would lay down. And it would tell us the father had gone to nest. And we wouldn't take the egg anymore. But 236 years ago, everything we knew would change. The Birrarung, the Yarra River, runs through country like the blood in our veins, providing life and resource. The MCG was once a place of song, dance, ceremony, tanderum, where we would share and trade with our neighbours. Unless you all went to Taylor Swift, then you're probably there dancing as well, right? But they were home, and we were forced off what was home to places like Bollum and Billabong. And then they established Corran Dirk. And Corran Dirk was one of the most profitable missions in the country. Yet, we weren't allowed to speak our native tongue. We were forced to read and write English before we'd be forwarded a meal or a paycheck. So for those of you joining us today that speak languages other than English, please, I implore you to teach your children, those future generations, because losing language is an absolute travesty to the fabric and identity of who we all are. At the mission, our headman was Uncle Billaballeri. He walked from what we know as Healesville to Melbourne, Naarm. And he negotiated our first treaty. It was 12 axes, a few bags of rice, and a couple of blankets. But the Crown ripped it up. We weren't worth that much. But on that journey, he had two little fellas, Uncle Simon Wonga and Uncle William Barak. And Uncle Barak and Uncle Wonga advocated tirelessly, not just for First Nations, but for Victorians, for all of you, because he knew the knowledge that he had to pass down would benefit generations well beyond his time. He gave my great-grandmother the tribal name Bullum. And if I take you back, well, it's almost 8 weeks now, you would have seen an abundance of little white butterflies everywhere, gentle, caring, and nurturing. The old people in our lives have a way of knowing, a way of guiding. Nan was instrumental in opening the first health service for Aboriginal people right here in Victoria. We had a referendum in 1967 and we voted yes, Aboriginal people are human. Then there's my story. And I turned 21 last week, I promise. But I started school and I wanted to share my story. I want to share the stories that I'd learned from aunties and uncles about Bunjil, our creator, the wedge-tailed eagle, Wah, the crow, who brought us fire, our lawman, Willert, the possum, who would grow with us. I'm still scared of Mindy, the snake, I'm not going to lie, I'm scared. But my first day of school, I was told I wasn't Aboriginal because I was fair-skinned. And I went home and I cried, questioning had my family lied to me and who I was. But my grandfather, one of our senior elders, sat me down and explained to me Bunjil's law on how we listen to one another, how we care and come together just like we are tonight to one another, and how that relationship directly correlates to country, like I mentioned the wattle before. And I want you all to hold that at the very forefront of everything we do, how we care, how we listen, how we come together collectively as one. I want to pay respects to my elders past and present. But I want to pause and pay my respects to each and every one of you and acknowledge your elders past and present also. Woman Jika Wurundjeri Bulak, Yemen Gundibik. In the Woiwurrung language, I just said welcome to the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. Our traditional lands go west to the Werribee River, north to the Great Divide, east to Mount Borbor, and south to Mordialloc Creek. Now if you can repeat after me, that would be phenomenal. Nun? That was lackluster. We can do better than that. Come on. Nun? Godjin. You just learned how to say thank you in Woiwurrung. Nun Godjin.
Thank you, Daniel. I always get really grounded by when people speak about country and history and places, and we're here celebrating 50 years of history of AAV. As I mentioned before, my name is Joshua Peffer and I'm the incoming CEO of Arts Access Victoria. This is really weird for me because I actually was an independent artist for the past decade. And so landing this role has been really humbling and also really frightening as well, especially speaking amongst large groups of people. But it's all good. I think I'll get used to it after some time. And funnily enough, there's a bit of history in this part of the building. I did my first solo work back here in 2017 for the Yurumboy Festival. And that involved a horse's head, fake blood, and little clothing, which nudity would become a big part of my costume in most of my works. So I'll let you decide amongst what that means. But also, yeah, I think it also made me realise that I felt that that was my calling in terms of this sort of sense of ritual practice and ceremony through that process. And this room holds a special energy in the sense of it also made me synonymous for being satanic at the time. So, yeah, it's got an interesting history, this room. Are there any what, sorry? No, nothing like that. It's all gone. Everything. No, guys. So I'd like to thank and acknowledge the guests from our funders here tonight, including Max Kaufman from Creative Victoria, staff from the City of Melbourne, and representatives from the many partner organisations and allies in the sector. Thank you very much. Without your support, this wouldn't be possible. Just general housekeeping, and once again, I might fuck up where things are, but bear with me. Accessible toilets and no gender toilets are at the back of the building, which is in that direction. There are drinks and food available at the bar towards the back of the room behind us with the big AAV letters, and that's in that direction there. There is a low sensory room just next to us here, and that's in that direction. And the exit is via the roller doors and main entrance, which is where you've come from. And if you need anything, AAV staff are wearing AAV badges like this. And there is a desk at the entrance where a staff member can assist you. So as I mentioned before, we're here to celebrate 50 years of AAV, an organisation that started in 1974 and is the peak body for arts and disability here in Victoria. We are a disability-led organisation that plays a vital role in the state, national and international discourse, and we are a leading force behind a more accessible arts and cultural sector. We produce and platform the work of deaf and disabled artists, arts workers and creatives. Our purpose is to lead transformational and systemic change that benefits all deaf and disabled people. And also, just another side note, at the 20th anniversary of the Other Film Festival is happening, and that will be celebrated later on this year. Yes! So I'd like to now introduce Nick Vogelpohl, who is the chair of the AAV board. Nick started his career at Access Arts Queensland. He is a disabled man and works as a social impact strategist and evaluator in health, international development, disability and climate. Please welcome Nick.
Wow, thanks Josh. I do speak in front of people a lot, but this is really overwhelming, I think, to speak in front of your peers and about an organisation who really, for me, changed my entire life, I would think. Good, it was. I'm really thrilled and proud to be here. Being the chair of a board's a bit strange because you have lots of meetings about people that you don't get to meet very often. And so I'm really pleased to meet you all in person today and my other board members here with me. This is a really important historical moment. We're 50 years, you're kind of celebrating something that I don't think we knew this was going to happen. And it was incredibly hard fought. So I think it's a really exciting night and I'm really pleased you're all here. You've met Josh, our incoming CEO, and as Josh says, we're a disability-led organisation, something that our outgoing CEO, Caroline, has made possible with us all. Something to be really proud of and really excited by. We've said thanks a little bit to our funders, but an organisation doesn't last this long, this kind of 50 years, without some seriously brave funding and partnerships from across the sector. So I'd like to extend thanks to Creative Australia and other parts of VicGov as well, including, and I met some colleagues tonight from Creative Victoria, from the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing, and the Department of Health. We mentioned the Other Film Festival is celebrating 20 years. Again, some amazing funding partners with Screen Australia, City of Melbourne, and, excitingly, Vic Screen. I'd also like to thank the City of Port Phillip, which is kind of strange because we're not in the City of Port Phillip, but usually we are, and we've had a long-standing relationship with them, and they continue to support AAV, including being the place where we are. I get to say thank you to everyone who contributed to this, to the collective. That's Jolt Arts, and Jade Hadfield and Sam McKinnon from State Library. Moondog Breweries, if you haven't had a beer, thank you Moondog. And to Gulash and the whole Meat Market team for letting us be here and put this on, so thank you. Most importantly, all of the artists that have made this possible, contributed and featured in the exhibitions that you are here experiencing tonight. They work with AAV through different ways. They work through our studio programs, through our grant partnerships, our mentorships, our youth programs, the other film festival, and attend our gatherings, which I did attend once, and many more ways that they connect as well. We have a really exciting event next Friday night, well, afternoon at 2 p.m, so it's not night, don't know why I said that. But next Friday here at 2 p.m, and we're going to have a panel and a chat with current and previous CEOs of AAV, kind of charting and talking about the history of the organisation. So do come along and say hi. And because I'm the chair of the board, I also have to say there's some QR codes around the building. And if you'd like to scan them and make a tax-deductible donation to the organisation, we would be really grateful. Thank you all so much for being here. I look forward to seeing you the rest of the night.
Thank you, Nick. I'd now like to introduce Judy Morton, who is the founder at AAV in 1974. She was its first and only staff member at the time. She ran AAV for several years, and when the next executive director, Dinny Downey, took over, Judy stayed and served on the board of AAV until 1997, serving as chair from 1988 to 1997. Judy went on to work for many years at Arts Victoria, now Creative Victoria, and has made a significant contribution to the Victorian arts and cultural sector. Please join me in welcoming Judy Morton.
Well, thank you all very much for your welcome. It really is incredible to be able to look back at Arts Access's history over 50 years. I guess it's my role to tell the origin story, how everything really started. So the program began on the 1st of April 1974. We came into being as a pilot project that was basically funded by the Australia Council and a couple of trusts. It was modelled on a New York-based organisation called Hospital Audiences Incorporated, which really worked to link the arts and and particularly institutions of all kinds through a ticketing program, and also through a kind of in-house performance program, so that people came from the institutions to attend mainstream arts events, and mainstream artists went into institutions to perform and run workshops. And that was basically the model that Arts Access followed for some time, although given that our context was slightly different, our programs, I think, from the beginning had much more of a focus on active participation more than passive consumption. So they say that the past is another country. So what was it like back then, back 50 years ago? The beginning, really 1974 or 73, 74, saw the beginning of the community arts movement in Australia. And it was particularly strong in Victoria, because Victoria normally leads the way in things like this. And so there was always an emphasis on the creativity that resides in it, bringing out the creativity that resides in us all. On the other side, we were on the threshold of the disability rights movement. But people were still mainly in institutions. People with mental illness were in large institutions, largely in the northwest of Melbourne, in northeast, Larundel, Plenty and Mont Park. People with intellectual disability lived at Kew Cottages, Janefield and St Nicholas Hospital in Carlton. People with sensory and physical disability tended to be in rather paternalistic organisations, sheltered workshops, hostels and the like. Children and youth at risk were in children's homes and youth training centres, and we now know what kind of damage was caused to many of those people. Yeah. And the aged were in large institutions, nursing homes, and in some ways we are still. So what we were trying to achieve was to give access to the arts and the positive benefits that engagement with the arts can bring. And it was very important to break down the barriers, I suppose, between community and people with disability and people disadvantaged by other circumstances. So, as I said right from the start, the importance of active engagement was recognised in Arts Accesses programs. And a couple of highlights that I'd just like to draw your attention to, and I'm sure you'll find information about them in the exhibition and in Arts Accesses records, was Theorem, which was quite an amazing, challenging and very successful project that culminated in hundreds of people performing on the stage to sell out audiences at the newly opened concert hall, which is now, of course, Hamer Hall. But at a smaller level, there were some wonderful examples of how arts workshops and activities could really benefit people. And one of my very early memories is a performance by the Magic Mushroom Mime Troupe, of whom a member is here today. Alison, hello. Who were working with people with young people with cerebral palsy, and that culminated in an amazing performance of a court scene drama. I think it was a murder mystery or something like that. But what stays with me was the courtroom scene where the participants gave evidence in a most articulate way, to the great astonishment of the staff, who were supposedly familiar with their abilities. So after 50 years, I guess a lot has changed. The institutions have disappeared. People with disabilities have found a voice and are listened to. There's been a greater emphasis on, as I said, participation and artists with disabilities. But I think one of the most important changes that has already been mentioned is that Arts Access Victoria has been transformed into a disability-led organisation. Now, in fairness to our past, I should say that there were certainly people with disabilities involved in Arts Access as board members, as staff, and as artists, and the barriers when we thought about disability, we thought in terms of barriers, not lack of ability. So it was barriers and discrimination created by society that we were focused on. I think the transformational nature of this disability-led organisation is reflected very much in the language. I went and did a little bit of research into old brochures. Now we use Arts Access, we use the term deaf and disabled people. But my research found a brochure from the 1970s that referred to groups isolated from other sections of the community by physical, social and economic conditions. And later in the 1980s, people disadvantaged by physical, intellectual, emotional or financial conditions. And later, of course, the term people with disability did become the accepted term. So, as I said, over 50 years, of course, there have been changes, but certain things, I think, remain the same. I think the centrality of the arts and creativity to the work of Arts Access remains, and the commitment to change. Arts Access has been and continues to be an agent for change, with a willingness and a capacity to react positively and to lead change. I think the thing that really hasn't changed, although the personnel has changed, the people of Arts Access haven't changed. We're still an incredibly talented, committed group who, once we come in contact with Arts Access in whatever role, we can't help but be engaged and become really ardent supporters. Talking about people, there are very many terrific people involved that in my 23 or 25 years or whatever involvement, who have loved and contributed to Arts Access over the years, and far too many to mention. But in closing, I would like to pay a tribute to Arts Access's first executive director, Dinny Downey, full-time executive director, who came to Arts Access at a time when Arts Access, the very existence of Arts Access was precarious, to say the least. With a bold vision, lots of feistiness, lots of political contacts, and lots of support from everyone, Dinny really established not only a financially viable organisation, but she really did put Arts Access on the map as an important component of Victoria's artistic life. And I think it has remained that. Dinny died at the end of 2021, but I think her legacy certainly lingers on. As I said, it is incredible to be able to celebrate 50 years of history. For me, it's been a privilege to be involved in Arts Access over so many years. It's incredible to be able to be here today to celebrate our achievements, and who knows what the next 50 years will bring. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. So our next speaker is probably what I'd consider disability royalty. Let I'm getting notes. Caroline Bowich is the outgoing CEO of AAV. Caroline came back from Australia from the UK to take up the role as CEO 6 years ago. In that time, Caroline has secured new funding for AAV, including innovative developed funding programs for artists and organisations, brokered major partnerships with Arts Centre Melbourne and Melbourne Fringe, and weathered the storms of the ongoing COVID pandemic. Caroline Bowich was appointed to the board of Creative Australia and the Arts Centre Melbourne Trust in 2024 and serves on the boards of Theatre Network Australia, TheatreWorks, and regularly consults on accessibility in the arts. So without further ado, please welcome Caroline Bowich.
Why, thank you. Thanks, Josh, for that very generous introduction. Royalty, I'm not sure about that. But I have worn gold just in case. It is such a pleasure to be here with you all, celebrating AAV's 50th anniversary. Just being at the door, it's like greeting friends from so many parts of this world, and it's a complete privilege to be sharing space with you all. I want to acknowledge all of the disabled artists that are in the room, the deaf and disabled artists in the room that have worked with us and continue to work with AAV over the many, many years that we have existed. We wouldn't exist without you, and the fact that you trust us to come on your artistic journey with you is always a privilege. So thank you for letting us do that with you. I also want to acknowledge the fact that we have almost all of the CEOs from our sister organisations around the country in the room with us tonight. So we've got representation from WA, from South Australia, from the NT, from New South Wales and Queensland. No, they're not here. And Victoria. So Josh and I. So we've been together for the last 2 days, dreaming big, making big aspirational statements based on all of the knowledge that we have gained from you over the years, the stories that you continue to tell us, that travel with us wherever we are, whatever tables we're at, you are with us, and that is always a privilege to carry you with us. So thank you for that as well. I also want to thank our allies from the sector who have come to celebrate with us tonight. For those of you that know me, someone described me today as being, I'm one of those people that's so welcoming, I welcome people in, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I'm like, gut punch. So I thank all of our sector friends, allies, partners that are in the room, that have supported us, that have sat with us and gone on the journey and been open for the conversations, because we would not succeed in the way that we have if it wasn't for your openness and being up for the conversation. So I thank you for that. So we are in this incredible space, and I love that Josh had a solo performance here in 2016. That feels really special. Even though it didn't, I love the fact that nudity forms part of your costume. I was like, how do you budget for that? But what I really want to say is thank you to all of the artists, the incredible, huge amount of artists that are involved in the films that are being screened on these amazing screens in here. Artists from our past, from 6 incredible projects that have happened in our history, that the artists that we're working with now have responded to. And there's something that feels really significant about disabled artists being able to respond to disabled artists, and to really, really be drawing on our heritage, our cultural heritage that often gets forgotten and isn't considered, and all of those things. And I feel really proud that we have brought this into being, basically. So none of it would have happened, obviously, without the artists, but none of it would have happened without the incredible dedication of the staff at AAV. So I really want to thank all of the creative producers that have worked with the studio artists and various artists that we have the privilege of working with, so that they are... I'm going to try and remember everybody. I want to acknowledge Millie, Maddie, Leafa, Phil, and I haven't got there yet. I'm getting there. I'm going through room by room. Fury, thank you. Who have all been part of bringing this incredible work together. But we wouldn't be seeing or hearing or experiencing the Auslan of any of it if it hadn't been put together by the fabulous Rachel Edward, who I'm very much hoping is in the room. Rachel's artistic integrity is just amazing, and what you see is the fruits of her labour. Our space where tonight is full of delicious food and drink, but our response room where we encourage you all to go and write us a little note, share something about your past, your connection to AAV. The response room has been put together by Artie and CJ, and is just a space for you to reflect and respond in. And to the amazing Sabina, wherever you are in the room, who is swanning around in that amazing yellow dress. Sabina, since the beginning of the year, has been going through AAV's archive, which lives in the car park underneath AAV's building in South Melbourne, and Sabina has tirelessly gone through every box and has found amazing things, and would come up at any point and just go, "Did you know this? I found this amazing thing! Oh my God, look at this!" And it's been a complete and pure pleasure to be on that journey with Sabina, but without Sabina's kind of complete determination and dedication to it, we would not be experiencing all of the amazing things that we have the opportunity to experience in the welcoming room. So congratulations, Sabina, on your amazing work. And there's one other person that I hugely need to thank, and that is Jeff Robinson, who I very firmly at some point said to him, "This project is huge, huge. It's got multiple parts, multiple moving parts. It's incredibly complicated. I really need you to be the one that holds the bunch of balloons. I need you to hold the balloons for everyone else to do the amazing work that they're going to do, but someone needs to be holding it." And Jeff, you held it. And you held it in a way that allowed people to find their own journey through it, find their own artistic voice, and you held it with care and with integrity. So thank you for that brilliance. For the last 3 years, I have definitely had a partner in crime, and that is the amazing Nikki Zarella, who is our Deputy CEO and General Manager. And Nikki's work in this area is long and incredibly dedicated, and Nikki has kept me and the organisation on the straight and narrow. It's kept us above board, within regulations, but also laughing, cared for, and really has just I could not have done it actually without you. So thank you for all that you've given to this organisation and me. And I want to thank the board who have trusted me as someone who'd never led an organisation before. They took a chance, and they've been incredibly supportive of me over the 6 years and have allowed me to take risks, to try things out, and absolutely had my back at every turn. So I thank all of the past and the present board members who have been there with me and supported. And there's someone else in the room that needs to be mentioned, and this is one of the last things I'll say. But actually, I wouldn't have this job if it wasn't for Veronica Pardo, who was my predecessor and who was brave enough to step aside, actually, who acknowledged that this organisation needed to be disability-led and stepped aside and got out of the way, as so many others don't. And so, Veronica, I am forever in your debt. So I thank you hugely for believing in me and supporting that progress. There are so many more amazing people at AAV that have come and gone. There's lots of past people here and lots of present people that I haven't talked about, but it's been an incredible privilege to have this role for the last 6 years. I look forward to finding myself in artistic spaces with you all at some point over the coming years. I am not leaving the country, as someone has been spreading rumours that I'm leaving. Liz, you can... I'm not leaving the country. We have a mortgage and 2 cats. Oh, Thomas Banks, I'm sorry to disappoint you. This country's big enough for both of us. It's okay. Thank you all so much. Enjoy tonight. Thank you, Fina, for the brilliant tunes that you're about to spin for us. There will be dancing. There has to be. Enjoy your time. Enjoy the exhibition, the archives. See if you can find yourself. I'm sure you will. And share a memory with us. And thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. So this is coming to close. So as part of the exhibition, you can share your memories of AAV in the response room, which is just directly behind us. And we have an AAV backdrop you can take some photos in front of. And if you're sharing online, please use the hashtag AAV50 so we can see it. And also, please come back for the exhibition again. There is so much archival material to enjoy, and we'll be exploring AAV's past, present and future in our Fridays at the collective events every Friday, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. And just to let you know, there's a DJ Fina Poe, who will be playing up there on that part of the that section there. Enjoy the night. Thank you, everybody.
Animation of AAV logos throughout the years, ending in current logo, gold, Arts Access Victoria, celebrating 50 years of arts and disability, 1974 to 2024. Title: Text on Screen, The Collective.
Text: Theorem 1981. This video consists of archival footage from a documentary produced about theatre project Theorem, which was performed at Hamer Hall in Melbourne. The video is 4 minutes 45 seconds long. Text: Theorem, a dream of change. An illustration of a dramatic mask appears on a flag against a background of cloudy sky. The camera zooms in, illustration fading into video footage of a large mask as tall as a person, made of colourful fabrics moving towards the camera on grassy sand dunes. People are shown being lifted out of wheelchairs, carried piggyback style, assisted to walk or carried in wheelchairs towards the ocean.
One still summer morning, Port Melbourne Beach was witness to a strange ritual. It was the aftermath of months of dedication and work by hundreds of people from all walks of life. The mask had been part of a unique theatrical performance called Theorem, devised by controversial drama therapist Aldo Gennaro. To everyone involved in the performance, the mask had come to symbolize all the handicaps and limitations of life. And now, the mask was to be drowned.
A group of people wave from the beach, many in wheelchairs, as others take the mask out to sea in a boat, triumphantly deposit it into the water, and watch it sink beneath the waves. Now back in the theatre, director and performers move around the stage.
You can come, listen, both of you come in here and wait for here.
Aldo's a really remarkable man.
Usually here.
He came here from Chile several years ago. He's done many, many interesting things. But Theorem must be the biggest venture he's taken on yet. After working it all out, he began the actual process through a series of workshops with an amazing collection of people.
For 9 months, I was just going from one place to another all around Victoria. I worked with children, unemployed people, with intellectual and physical disabled people in institutions and in the community, prisoners, artists, altogether around 800 people.
Theorem's huge puppets were designed around a person in a wheelchair who actually drove the puppet, and one seated on a frame above who worked the hands and head.
Performers in wheelchairs are seen operating the puppets, which glow in the theatre lights. Others are dancing with the large figures, whose hands and heads move.
I met Mandy 2 years ago when I did the first workshop in Albury and Wodonga. She has this round shape and round form, a beautiful round face. The only thing I can compare is the moon when it is full and give all that energy out. But when she's performing, it is a beautiful mime of a woman in grief. There is so much fragility, so much sensitivity. It is just amazing.
Mandy mimes on stage with expressive flowing hands and body movements. A series of images of the performance depict the colourful puppets with expressive faces and performers on stage in Hamer Hall. The scale of the puppets makes them loom over performers, their shining fabric catching in the theatre lights. In one image, the stage is filled with performers in wheelchairs, all dressed in elaborate yellow and red costumes as they undertake a marriage ceremony for 2 central figures. The dramatic mask illustration appears again to end. Text: Way Out West and Maidstone Studios respond to Theorem 2024. The Response to Theorem is a 4-minute film where visual art is shown interspersed with footage of 2 live performances. The artworks are vibrant, colourful drawings and paintings. Some direct representations of elements of the original performance, such as large puppets and depictions of the performers. Others, abstract responses capturing the vibrant colours and energy of Theorem from 1981. These artworks are shown in between 2 live performances. In one, a dancing woman stands tall. The film fades her dance in and out of the visual art, as though she is becoming a moving part of the artworks. The second performance features a handmade puppet theatre.
It was a play. They had beautiful costumes and they looked wonderful.
My drawing is of the mask with a flag, and it has a colourful background.
And I've drawn like an emperor figure. He's standing firm and strong, and he looks very happy and content where he is.
She's standing on a brightly coloured stage. She has a very yellow face and bright orange hair. Maybe it's an apron over a blue dress with a veil and hand up in the air.
The dancing woman stands tall.
And it's just a face with a crown of autumn type leaves, autumn coloured leaves that are in oranges and yellows and deep red.
Slowly, deliberately moving her arms and hands to create a flowing movement around her face and extending out from her body.
There's a few shapes in there, lots of colours. There's a large oval shape, there's some dots, there's some dashes. I think it makes me appreciate things that are around us.
The puppet theatre has red curtains from which a human-like puppet with long yellow hair emerges.
Y Elisa tendrá que tener alguna pregunta, alguna razón tendrá.
It's got flowers in the hair which really inspired me because I like flowers. And as for the other one on the right, a puppet, that really inspired me because of how tall it was.
A large mask in a mosaic of colours stands next to a tall figure with colourful stripes. Scaffolding next to them sits with a yellow sun in the corner.
It's a group of macabre-looking people. I tried to get the movement and the mood of these people. It looks like a dance of puppets.
They're all different colours and they're vibrant. I've made some squiggly curly little things like balloons with bits hanging off them that look like balloons tied up.
The puppet wears a bright outfit of pinks, greens and yellows.
Mi concha, si te dije, si la función estaba todo preparado, cosa que el actor llegara y se enterara.
The bright orange and yellows are happy colours. It's a mother with 2 children. The mother is got them securely in her arms and protecting them. She's a single mum and she's protecting both of them and nurturing them and raising them and guiding them into adulthood.
3 smiling people with yellow and brown tones stand in front of a large triangle structure. Text. Taste of Crime, 1989, Fairley Women's Prison. This film is 5 minutes and 45 seconds long and is made of archival footage of 7 prisoners performing to a live audience inside Fairley Women's Prison. There are 3 clips. In the first, 3 women are on stage, one playing a guitar, all 3 singing and acting as the central characters of the song, riding in a car down the highway.
going on down.